All right, today I am talking about Homeschool Tracker and specifically how it has really helped me to be able to organize our homeschool days, weeks, and years, and to have a really good logging and tracking system. I use Homeschool Tracker Plus. Homeschool Tracker Plus is a one-time purchase. It is a database program that runs on your PC, not on Mac. If you are a Mac user and are interested in Homeschool Tracker, they also have an online version um, at homeschooltracker.com that you can purchase and use, and that runs online and can be used with PC or Mac. As you can see, I'm sitting at the login screen and I have multiple logins. You can create a bunch of different logins if you choose. We have one for our oldest daughter, Chloe, so that she can go in and keep her reading log up to date. But she would have access to something like that, whereas I can restrict access and not allow her access to, say, her grades, as far as her being able to change or add or subtract grades. Which is the great thing about being able to have different logins. Now, myself as the teacher, I have full access to everything. So we're going to go ahead and log in and take a look at Homeschool Tracker Plus. Now, this is Homeschool Tracker Plus, like I said, for the computer, for the PC. The online version looks a little bit different, but does pretty much the same things. So I use this assignment view as well as the agenda view, which I'll show you in a few minutes. And given that this is a database program, I did in the beginning have a fair amount of time put into inputting things like my students' names, grades, information, putting in things like the resources that we're using from, like here you see teaching textbooks. You can see a longer list here, like I had to input all the subjects. So I get to choose what subjects. So if I want to call something spelling, then I call it spelling. So this allows me to choose what subjects I want listed. And then when you choose a subject and you choose a resource, it shows the resources that you have inputted in to use with that subject. And so Homeschool Tracker is highly customizable, and it is a database, so it is only as good as the information that you put into it. But for someone like me who likes to dot I's and check boxes, Homeschool Tracker has really allowed me to be able to see the results of the time that we've spent and to catalog and log the amount of time spent. And here in New York State, one of the things we have to keep is an attendance log. And as you can see here, I can keep track of all of our children's attendance. Now, let's go ahead and add one. So I can go ahead and choose to add in an attendance for the day. I usually, it's present or they're not. I never put an absent. And 99% of our days, something is spent academically, and we count it as a day homeschooling. So as you can see, this keeps track of our attendance. Now, what I do is on Sunday nights, I sit down and plan our kids' weeks. Now, our oldest, Chloe, is now planning her own week. She has a paper planner and she plans her whole week and keeps track of all of her stuff in her planner. And then at the end of the week, I take her planner and log everything in here according to her planner. So this is the view of all of my students, all of my children, for the week of September 22nd to the 28th. Ava, our youngest, is in pink. Jaden, our son, who's in 5th grade, is in blue. And Chloe is in yellow. And like I said, you may not see as much for Chloe because I have not inputted everything from her planner in here yet. But for Jaden and Ava, I take a look at our own family calendar and then I go to this agenda view and I am able to see how each of the kids' days kind of play out. So say we have a field trip on Wednesday morning. So I would put all of that in. You can see it's on each one of the kids. We have a field trip. So that means that hour and a half of field trip plus travel time is taken up. So I have to plan accordingly for the amount of work that they have that day to ensure that they have enough time to do all that work. Um, Another thing I do so that I can plan their weeks ahead is I give each subject a given amount of time. As you can see here, Chloe is from 7:30 to 9. She has math. And last year we started the year giving her an hour and quickly realized that an hour was not enough time, that she was consistently spending more than an hour. And due to that fact, we changed it to an hour and a half. There may be some days she only spends 45 or 50 minutes. There may be some days she spends more than 2 hours. We kind of picked an average time that allowed us to lay out our days and kind of plan out and figure out how much time each thing was going to take. And so that's ultimately what we have chosen to do. And so I have done that for each one of the kids in all of their subjects. There's just a time pick that's an average time that we chose. So Jaden has math starting at 8 o'clock. Now, our kids don't necessarily, oh, it's 8 o'clock, it's time to do math. So from 8 to 9, I'm going to sit and do math. That's not really how it goes. Jaden is an early riser, so he will typically be up at 7 a.m. Working on his math. And you can see Ava I have scheduled later in the day. She is not an early riser. Does she get up at 10 o'clock? No. Some days she's up earlier or later. Does she do her math necessarily right at 10? No. But this allows her to see her assignment sheets, which I will show you. One of the many great reports that you can print out with Homeschool Tracker is the assignment sheets, and I print those out for each week. On Sunday, when I go ahead and schedule all of their work for the week, I am then able to go in and print an assignment sheet for each one of them. And I put them on clipboards, and Jaden and Ava each have their own clipboard, and this is what they would see. They would see an assignment sheet with every day of the week, and each day shows all of their assignments, whether that be um, playing the piano, or here you see Ava has cheerleading, or like I mentioned before, a field trip. All of those things are on the kids' assignment sheets. And so they can go ahead and sort of pick and choose. And maybe Ava doesn't feel like doing math first, so she chooses to do spelling. And as they complete each thing, this column is the done column, and they would just put a check mark in this to say, yep, I'm done. Yep, I finished this. It's also a way for me to look at look at their sheets and say, okay, I see that you're not done with such and such, so you have a few minutes of free time, but then it's time to get back to it and get this done for the day. The other thing is I love these paper sheets on their clipboards because as I have time, I can go ahead and grade the things that they've done and mark the grades in this points column. Now you see some of them have a point value, like this one for instance has 100. That's because some things I know what the total point value is. I've looked ahead of time, and so I've already put it into the program. So for instance here the 22, that means this assignment is out of a total of 22, and so I would just put a slash and the amount that she got right, and that would be her total. And what I can do with these sheets, now there's two here for Ava, as you can see. I'll scroll through. And then we get into Jaden's. Now what I would do with these at the end of the weeks is take them off their clipboards, make sure that everything is checked off that they've done. If not, then we'll sit down and say, okay, you haven't finished this, let's get it done. And then I can sit down at the computer and easily log all of this information into the program. And the great thing about this program is you input information in one way and you get all these different ways that it can spit information back out at you. For instance, a report card that I would print for each quarter for our children, which they love to see. Here's the report card, and you can see each one of the terms is listed, and here are start and end dates. Now I created these start and end dates. Everything in Homeschool Tracker is completely customizable, so I was able to create the starts and end dates for each one of my quarters. And here you can see our attendance is logged in New York State. That is one of the things that's required. So it's nice to have our attendance right there and visible to see in the program. And each one of their grades. Now Ava only has a few subjects because she's 7 and I don't do a whole lot of grading. But this is what the kids would see at the end of a quarter, and a way for me to print things out at the end of the year and have report cards. So Homeschool Tracker for me has really allowed me to keep track of time spent, especially as Chloe is entering high school. Our state requires, a certain number of hours for math, a certain number of hours for history. It's very specific, and in this way I have a record of what we've done, and I can see, okay, we've covered the set amount of time that we need to cover for this subject, and Homeschool Tracker has really allowed me to do that. And it has allowed me to really organize our days. And instead of me stressing and worrying and wondering, did I cover everything? Are we going to get through everything on time? In this manner, I can lay it all out ahead of time and know that, okay, we covered what was on my list. I know that we've covered everything we need to cover. I'm good to go. Let's move on and go do something else that's, that we want to do, and move on. And so Homeschool Tracker has allowed me the freedom to plan as many weeks as I want. I could plan months in advance and plan all of it, or I can plan 1 week at a time, or even one day at a time. Sometimes we'll get busy and I won't have the whole week done, and I'll just do the one day for the kids. And so, like, okay, here's today, and while you're working on today, I will work on the rest of the week. So this is how, just a little piece of how I use Homeschool Tracker to help organize our days and our weeks, and to keep track of all of the information that um, you need to keep track of when it comes to your schooling, especially in a state like New York State where they require more information from you. It really allows me to keep track of all of their times and dates and books and grades, and click reports in so many different forms as I need them.